Good devach, everybody. So let me tell you, Maisa. One of the great chassidim of the Tzemach Tzedek was named Rav Hillel Paritcher. So he used to say over this following story that happened to him during this time of year of El, and to him this Maisa brought out what Tshuva is about, what El is about. He said that he was once walking a late winter night in Russia somewhere. In those days, the Tsar obviously had a palace that he lived in, but the Tsar had throughout Russia, really throughout the entire empire, had many different palaces. And although the Tsar would only be obviously one location at a time, but every palace needed to be guarded and respected, because in theory, it's still the palace of the Tsar, and the Tsar could theoretically be there. And so Rav Hillel Paritcher said that he was once walking past, late at night, a late winter night, he was walking past one of these palaces. And as he's walking by, he hears shrieking and screaming and moaning and yelling, and it's a strange thing. So he approaches, he goes a little bit closer to see what's going on, and he realizes that what's happening is he sees a young soldier who is being beaten mercilessly by his higher-ranking officer that evidently was in charge. And so it's a strange thing, a strange sight. So Rav Hillel says that he goes over, and there's a whole commotion over there. And this is what he found out what happened, that this young soldier was charged with standing guard and watching the palace of the Tsar. Now again, most likely the Tsar wasn't even there, but that was his job. Now the problem was it was late at night, extremely cold, and this unfortunate soul, this young boy, he fell asleep. Now his mazel was he falls asleep exactly when his higher officer is approaching and walking by. Now the proper mode of conduct is that when the higher officer walks by, the young soldier is supposed to stand up. Problem is, he wasn't able to move because when he was sleeping, his boots froze to the ground. So it was clear to the higher ranking officer that clearly he fell asleep on the job, and that's why he's frozen in place. And so he begins to beat him mercilessly over the fact that he fell asleep. And so in this whole commotion, while the kid is being beaten up, the kid soldier, is calling out and begging for his life and begging for mercy. And he says the following thing. He says, please just have compassion on me. It's so cold. I'm so tired. I fell asleep for mamish a minute, and I froze to the ground, and I was wrong. But just, it's so cold. It's not my fault. And so Rav Hillel Paritcher used to say the following thing. He said that what the officer responded to the young soldier. So the officer said, I was there 10 years ago, whatever it is, when you took an oath to serve the Tsar. And he said, when you took an oath to serve the Tsar, that oath should keep you warm to this day. Klap. So Rav Hillel Paritcher said, no. Tanya, the beginning of Sefer Tanya, it says in the Gemara Nida, it's a brisa, Mashbi'in Isai, Ti Tzadik Val Ti Rasha. Every single one of us, before we come to the world, we take an oath. Be a tzaddik, don't be a Rasha. And even if the whole world tells you you're a tzaddik, don't think that your mission is accomplished. Always work on becoming a bigger tzaddik. And so the Rav Hillel Paritcher said, and then what happens is we take that oath and we're sent to this world with all the winters and all the coldness of this world. But just like that officer told that soldier, that oath that you took has to keep you warm to this day. That oath that we took in Shemaim also has to keep us warm to this day. It's not going to turn winter into spring, but it should create an inner warmth and an inner desire, an inner fire to be able to make sure that our boots don't freeze to the ground. And Rav Hillel said, this is the Avodah Vel. The Avodah Vel and the Avodah of Tshuva is to remember that oath that we took, and to remember that we were sent to this world with all the winters and with all the coldness, but we have that fire in the belly that comes from that oath to ensure that our boots don't freeze to the ground. We're able to walk, we're able to move, we're able to jump, we're able to dance, we're able to go weiter to fulfill that oath. And so Hashem should help us that this week, as we get that much closer to Yom Nerayim, to Slichas, and so on, should be zochet to remember that oath. And that's ultimately the secret of tshuva, is to remember that oath and to keep ourselves warm from that oath. Should be zochet to have a week of the Chamis and Yeshua, Zakutavach on all levels. Be as called Tzadik Meher V'Meinu. Amen.